And good morning to everyone. It's Wednesday and it is February the 11th, Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes, as we gather together this morning for a few words. Next week at this time we'll be having Ash Wednesday, and Ash Wednesday is an opportunity for us to begin a period of time where we focus on some end things in our life, so focus on some important things in our life. You know, St. John Bosco used to teach the boys that he taught with even. You know, the focus to at least spend one day a month, every day, one day a month, to focus on an end thing, an exercise for a happy death. You know, the end times for us. Helps us to focus on those things that should be most important in our life, that should help us to move in a direction where we know that we're moving closer to God every day. And Lent gives us that opportunity. And when we think of Lent, we think in terms of fasting, self-denial, becoming more self-aware of who we are, of the person that we're called to be. You know. And Lent and fasting has all kinds of horrific stories for us, you know, failures that force us almost to the point of just surrendering. You know. And I say, if during Lent, you know, when you make your promise, you know, hot buttered popcorn, you know, the smell of that is almost like being spiritually attacked. You know, if your prayer journal, you know, is covered with snack stains, you know, if you're thinking in terms of fasting, then you have to ask yourself, why do I fast? Why am I fasting? If I'm fasting so I can fit into my clothes better for spring or for the summer or whatever, you know, that's not a reason. Any reason that doesn't entail drawing closer to God falls short of why we fast and why Christians fast, why anybody fasts. Catholics fast certainly on Ash Wednesday. We fast on Good Friday. We fast on all the Fridays of Lent. But we also fast an hour before every time we receive the Eucharist. An hour before receiving the Eucharist. Used to be a heck of a lot longer than that, but now it's down to at least an hour. Can we maintain that hour without snacking, without eating, without... How serious are we in this? Showing that we're strong enough, and that we're committed enough, and that we're hungry enough for God in our life to maintain that sense of the specialness of what it is that we're preparing to do. Are we seeking to draw closer to God by the sacrifice that we're putting in our life, by the mortification that we're asking ourselves to undertake? Well, hopefully that's the reality. You know, so many times you hear people that fail. Their Lenten fast is more like Lenten pausing. You know, and it's not so much that, you know, their promise lasts just a couple of minutes after they make the promise. But that's going to happen from time to time. We just renew the promise and determine that you're going to be stronger in practicing it. Don't think it's impossible. Nothing is impossible without, you know, if we're on our own sometimes, but not with the grace of God, especially if we're seeking to draw closer to Him. And so I would remember a time as a boy, you know, when I first went with the Salesians, I was just 13 years old. And they began the practice of every month we would have a special day put aside to focus on the end things. So we'd clean our locker and clean our bed as if it's the last time we were going in. Some people think that's morbid. No, it's facing reality. The reality that death is just as much a part of life as living is. And how ready are we getting ready for this journey that we're going to be on? You know, listening to a conference, going to confession. You know, it was for all of us just a part of growing up. It was a part of how we grow in our understanding of life itself. I remember in communities trying to come up with, tonight we're going to be going through a meeting of what are we going to do as a community to show our Lenten fast or a Lenten practice. I've been in some communities where a practice they gave up TV, evening TV, no watching the news. That lasted for about 4 or 5 days, you know, and then people were ready to get at each other's throats after a while. and people were cheating all over the place, listening to it in different places, looking everywhere for it, and so why bother having it? So the reality is, if you're going to make a promise, promise it, but don't promise it to me, don't promise it to you, promise it to God, that for your sake and in your name, Lord, I'm going to do this. I'm going to either make a visit to the Blessed Sacrament every day. I'm going to do an examine of conscience every day to see how I can be better for the following day, to challenge myself to do better, to be better for the following day. You know, and so, if our Lenten practice, like I said, is more of a Lenten pause, and it's only because we're doing something to please others, then useless, wasted effort, wasted time. It's got to be because it's going to help us to draw closer to God. Lenten practice, Lenten fast, they go back to the Old Testament, as I mentioned, and it is an opportunity for us to draw closer to God by showing the strength, how strong we are, to put aside personal pleasure, personal satisfaction, in order to focus on something that's going to make us draw closer to God, to fill up the void that we would have for doing without a particular earthly thing, earthly pleasure, and filling it with a spiritual pleasure, a joy of knowing, of coming to know God's love in our life, of experiencing His grace in our life and responding to that grace in His life and being filled with the joy and the peace and the hope and the love that comes with that. And so, as we close the thought today, if you're going to do a Lenten practice, if it's going to be a fast, well then fast. Fast on the times that we're asked to fast, but do it because it's going to draw us closer to God, not because it's meant to help us to draw closer to God, get us stronger spiritually. And if it's an event that you failed, or some promise that you failed, start again right away and resolve to do longer, because that will help you. That strength, that personal strength, and helping you to grow in self-awareness will help you to be closer, draw closer to God, and through God, hopefully to others. That's the purpose of our Lenten practice, I think. And remember, on the days that we're called to fast, try and do your best to fast. For Catholics, we avoid, for those who are sick, for those who are very young, and for those who are very, very senior, who can't do it for health reasons. That's one thing. But don't ever stop trying to build your life on things that draw us closer to God. Commit yourself to doing something. Find something. Do it. And doing it, add something to that and to that, until the hunger for God is satisfied. Not forgotten, but satisfied. Mary, help of Christians, pray for us. Mary, help of Christians, pray for you. God bless you all, and see you next week. See you on Ash Wednesday. God bless you all. Bye-bye now.